Hello and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast for our midweek transfer window special. I'm joined, as always, by Joseph Doherty. Joe, how are you getting on today?
Rafe, I'm doing very well. Some positive transfer news for Arsenal today at last. So yeah, pretty happy with life.
And all the way from Spain, Stefan, how are you doing?
I'm doing
No,
very
he's from
well,
Upton
thanks.
Park. He's an Upton Park man,
Yeah.
can't you see?
They've moved the ground. Our
Yeah.
Spanish football correspondent for the day. I suppose that's obviously the best place to start with everything that's going on. Obviously the major transfer rumour of the window to date is Lionel Messi's potential Barcelona departure. Steph, what are you hearing from your sources in Spain? How close to a deal are we?
Well, what I'm hearing is a lot of noise and a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion, basically. It obviously at first came out that he had sent a registered fax to the club to say that he wanted to leave, and that kind of set in motion. Then it's been a week of different reports about different clauses in his contract. It seems every time they redo his contract, they put in about 15 different new clauses. So there was a clause that would have allowed him to leave by the 10th of June, I think it was, so 2 days after the Champions League final. Then that expired. FIFA rules were saying that we should be keeping in the spirit of the situation of COVID and trying to be flexible. Barcelona and La Liga do not agree with that because they don't want to lose their star assets. So that's kind of being swept away. I think that, I guess the big news maybe might come tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, the 2nd of September. There's a meeting between Jorge Messi, Messi's father and agent, and Bartomeu, the Barcelona president. So that seems like we would hope maybe there'll be some kind of clarity will come out of that. Kind of reading today,
you mentioned the Barcelona president there, and initially when the news broke that Messi had handed in a transfer request and wanted to leave the club, there was a lot of talk that it purely down to the mismanagement of the club, and it was a power move that he wanted to get him out earlier than the November elections. Does it seem like that is the case, or do you think that he genuinely does want to leave the club now?
At the moment, it's quite unclear. There's a lot of contrasting views on which it is. Again, there was another clause that was reported that this next season is actually optional for Messi still, so he can, if he wants, he actually can go, which would indicate that there is kind of some sort of negotiation ploy at play. Again, I think tomorrow the meeting between Jorge Messi and Bartomeu will kind of definitely clear things up a lot. There are also reports coming from Barcelona saying that other board members, if it means that they'll get money for Messi now, would rather sell him this summer than wait to let him leave next summer, because I think they're kind of looking at around the €100 million mark that in terms of the losses that Barcelona have suffered since the start of the pandemic. So they're kind of thinking, it could be a cleaner option, if the meeting maybe doesn't go well tomorrow, could be to sell him out or to sell him on in this window and at least recoup something for him, given that they're kind of staring into a bit of a rebuilding phase anyway as it is.
Yeah, I suppose it's even one of those cases where even if the ruling does go in favour of Barcelona, that the contract is still kind of valid, that he is under contract. If he doesn't want to play, they're going to have to let him go anyway.
Exactly, yeah. I think he can be quite stubborn. I mean, he was due to turn up to training the other day. I'm sure you might have seen it. Some people might have seen the image of the small child crying outside Barcelona when the Messi didn't turn up for his COVID test. So, if he wants to go, and I think with all that he's given to the club his whole career, if he feels his time is up there and he feels maybe the project kind of has come to an end in terms of his career there, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he would maybe down tools to force a move, and I don't think anyone could begrudge him given everything he gives the club.
We'll come back to Barcelona in a couple of minutes and look at maybe the rest of the squad and some of the reasons that he might want to leave and what they're planning to do. But Joe, how exciting would it be to see Lionel Messi playing in the Premier League?
It'd be huge. Let's be honest, we haven't had that type of player, that grand a player since Cristiano Ronaldo left for Real Madrid. When did he leave? 2009? Yeah, summer 2009. So we're going back over 10 years. Obviously, we've had an abundance of quality players, but no one who's like rivaling for best player in the world. So it'll be huge. The only thing is, we all know which club the only club who could afford him. And the only reason they can do,
one of two globally.
The two Manchester clubs, right?
Well,
maybe Chelsea at a push. No, I mean in the Premier League. You asked me if it would be exciting to see him in the Premier League. So, and the reason they couldn't do a deal for him this year is because financial fair play rules have been relaxed due to COVID. So the circumstances are a little bit muddy, if you like to put it that way. But I mean, it'd be amazing to have Messi Messi in the Premier League. And for all those who've kind of said, could he do it on a rainy December night in Burnley or in Stoke or whatever? I think it's probably obvious that he could do that. He's one of the best players, if not the best player of all time. So it'd be only a plus to have him in the Premier League.
Are there any negatives associated with possibly signing him? Are there questions about whether he's needed in terms of players on the pitch, whether that should be a priority, another attacking player, or does the caliber of player that he is and the reputation he brings totally outweigh that?
Yeah, man. If you have the chance to sign Messi, you sign Messi. I mean, he's 33, but he's got another 3-4 years left, I think, of being... He's adapted his game very well over the past 3 years. Now he's more of a creator. I think that he's still scoring loads, but the number of assists that he's registering and how he comes deeper to dictate the play. I mean, for Manchester City, he'd almost be a David Silva replacement. He'd play higher up. I think he plays closer to Aguero. Yeah, but he'd... and I mean, what does that do for Foden? Yeah. But come on, if you can't turn that opportunity down. You can't. That'd be crazy. There's no good reason to do that.
And I think,
and from the commercial side as well. From the commercial side as well, for Manchester City.
What are Man City all about? What are their aims?
They're about winning.
That's the key
they're
point,
about winning. They're about winning, and they're about building their brand. Their brand is this city group of the Manchester City, New York City, and Melbourne City. And Messi is going to lead that brand for the next however many years if they can get that deal down the line. And that's kind of what's Messi, pardon the pun, but in regards to the Barcelona situation, because he's an icon of Barcelona. And when you think of Lionel Messi, for me, you don't think of Argentina, you think of Barcelona, you think of them winning leagues with him at the helm, doing his thing and being crowned times. So for him to then go and be the brand ambassador for the for Abu Dhabi's football project is that's the negative for me. If there is to be a negative, that's the negative, is that he cuts his ties with Barcelona, where he's a legend without doubt, and where Xavi is all these players. Abidal, he was just sacked as sporting director, but he went back, and all these legendary players at Barcelona, there's always a place for them. And if he leaves under these circumstances and goes to be a brand ambassador for the Abu Dhabi group and Manchester City, I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's the one black mark for me.
You spoke a lot about Barcelona teams of the past, and I suppose that ties in with the next question I'm going to ask Stefan. Obviously, the Barcelona team have aged together over the last 3 or 4 years to a varying degree of success, I suppose, whether you look at them domestically or in Europe. But they have invested money, but in the wrong places. They got that Neymar money a couple of years ago. They splashed it out on Coutinho and then Dembele, a player that they've loaned out and one that struggles to get into the first team, and Griezmann as well, who struggled to get into the team last year. What are the issues at Barcelona that are pushing Messi out of the team?
I think you've kind of got to look back to maybe how the Guardiola team was created, and there was such a huge focus on the academy. I think nearly the whole team came through the academy, and obviously it was a sensational crop of players. But when they were hiring coaches, they had this a checklist of everything that a coach had to have, and it was the kind of the Barcelona ethos that was built by Johan Cruyff. And it seems like in the last while they've just kind of moved away from that, where it's just been, we've got Messi, we're going to win, and let's just put some solid pieces around him and we'll win. But they really seem to have, like, when you think about the Guardiola team, Luis Enrique even as well, even though they had the kind of Messi, Neymar, Suarez, which was obviously a big part of their success, their style of football was very, you could always tell it was Barcelona playing, the way they played, the way they just suffocated teams. And that's just not the case anymore. And they seem to have kind of moved a bit away from the blueprint and just haven't really been able to replace. I mean, if you look at the team that won the Champions League a few years ago, I think when Xavi was being phased out, with Busquets, Iniesta, Rakitic, that midfield, and then Messi, Neymar, Suarez, it's been a slow. As those players have left one by one, they haven't found the quality to replace them, neither coming through the academy nor through signings, that seem a bit rash. Maybe they seem to take the kind of the popular option signing that doesn't necessarily fit their style of play. So they've just, a kind of combination of a bit of mismanagement. I think a bit of, managers that either, are a bad fit to start with or don't get enough time to really kind of implement the Barca blueprint on the team. And I think that's why they've gone back to Koeman, someone who's been there before, someone who knows the club, the culture. And they're hoping to kind of probably build up again and really reinstall that kind of Barcelona culture on the team.
If I could just butt in there, I think that there's some really good points there, Steph. I mean, the signing of Arturo Vidal, how does that? I mean, like, where are these La Masia midfielders coming through? Where's the next Busquets? Where's the next Xavi? Where's the next Iniesta field? You know, for as good as a player Ivan Rakitic is, he's not that good, and he's not in the mold of a Xavi or an Iniesta. So it's actually quite. I have no great love for Barcelona at all. In fact, I don't really like them as a football club. But it's sad when they have such a clear identity and when they have such class in their history. It's sad to see how they've been run these past few years, and the clear mismanagement from the executive staff and these big name signings that there's no forward planning to. It's much worse than the Real Madrid Galacticos, who were serial underachievers as well. It's much worse than this. It's one of the biggest messes in football at the moment, and it's actually no wonder that Messi wants out.
Yeah, and they're in a very difficult position
because they haven't backed him. They haven't built the team around him.
Just to add that they're in a very difficult position now, because when this crop of, well, if you go back to maybe the earlier Guardiola team, with the kind of spine of Valdez, Puyol, Iniesta, Xavi, and then a bit later Messi, when they started coming through, Barcelona weren't that great. I mean, they weren't kind of serial league winners and Champions League winners. But now they are, and they're a mega global brand now, and they're not like anything less than winning the league. And probably a domestic double is a failure now. So there's it's blooding young players in. It's not like they have a season now to just get in there and get used to the pace of the league. It's get in there and win pretty quick. And if not, there's going to be serious pressure to buy whoever the kind of popular name on the fans' lips is for 100 million in the summer, and that's kind of how it goes. I mean, you look at Coutinho and Dembele now, and they really look like and Griezmann. They almost look like just throwaway signings, like just shrug the shoulders, throw 100 million at someone to try.
How much do we think that the departure of Messi could actually help some of these players? Like Griezmann, Griezmann's been anonymous since he moved to Barcelona because he's shadowed.
But he's been playing left wing. He's been playing left wing.
And he's been playing.
If anything, he should be playing as a right inside forward or a striker.
Yeah. I think Koeman has told, I think as part of when he told Suarez that he wasn't really part of his plans, which is obviously a very brave move. I think he's also kind of going to count on Griezmann to be central to the team, so to play more through the middle. So it looks like he might try and build through Griezmann, which, given the success he's had in La Liga, he's been an incredible player through the years for Atleti and for Sociedad. So no doubt he might be able to carry it on. But again, if there's not the team around him, it's a tough summer to be trying to rebuild, because you obviously still want to bring players in. And look, we're 10 days out from the start of the league already, so it's definitely
Ivan Rakitic departed today. He went back to Sevilla, and there are a handful of other big names. You touched on Suarez there, who's been linked with an exit. Joe, I think you were telling me earlier that essentially every player over the age of 30 has been transfer listed at Barcelona. They've got
except
a massive
for Messi,
job ahead of them.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we're talking about these icons of Barcelona, the likes of Gerard Piqué. I mean, they're three captains: Messi, Busquets, and Piqué would all be put up for sale. I think there's some debate around Busquets, maybe because he's on. I think he might just be 30 or 31, and they might not want to get rid of them. But I certainly heard the Athletics' latest podcast. Their man in Spain, can't remember his name. He's an Irish lad. He was saying, like, laying it out there crystal clear that all of the 30 pluses, the PKs, the Busquetses, the Suarezes, all these guys, Jordi Alba, who Vidal as well, although he's less of an icon. Even people like Umtiti, all of the either old or high wage earners and the signings that haven't worked out are up for sale, and it's just. I mean, they can't get it all done this year, can they? There's no way. This is a huge project. And Koeman, I think, Steph, I have to disagree with you when you say that he's in the Barcelona mold. He played for Barcelona, but it was a very different Barcelona. And I think if we look at how he managed at both Southampton and Everton, he's a much more pragmatic manager than the likes of Guardiola. He's definitely not that tiki-taka type. He's a 4-2-3-1, two solid DMs, like how the Netherlands played in the 2010 World Cup to so much criticism. He's in that mold.
The point on that, Joe, sorry, it's not as much, I guess, because the style of play is dictated by the club and the hierarchy. And that kind of gets fed down to the manager almost. But what I mean by him being in the culture and the mold is they always want to promote internally. That's what they did with Guardiola, Tito Villanueva after, and Luis Enrique, someone who played there before coming back. It's always a massive focus of them to have someone coming back. And again, the last couple of managers, then it went to just pick the popular Spanish manager who's doing well. So, sorry, what I was getting at more was that they wanted someone who's kind of invested in the club as not just as a football team, but as the entire kind of entity, and that will kind of come in and probably, I guess, align with what they want as well, and not that there be an egotistical kind of he'll go and do his own thing.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Sorry for the misunderstanding. That's very clear. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Cheers, lads. And that concludes part one. For part two, we're going to move back to the Premier League and focus on some of the deals that have been done and are rumoured to have been done. Joe's put together a fantastic list for us here, and I suppose the obvious place to start talking about the transfer market is Chelsea. Joe, they've obviously done a lot of business so far. They've been the proactive ones in terms of getting deals done early. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the business that's gone on there?
Yeah, so obviously the three major deals that have gone through for Chelsea already are Timo Werner, £54 million from RB Leipzig, fantastic German striker who's been scoring a serious amount of goals over the last 12 to 18 months. Hakim Ziyech, left-footed right winger from Ajax, £36 million. Liverpool were obviously linked with Werner, and they seemed to pull out of the deal and allow Chelsea a free pass. I don't know if it was because Werner, Rafe, you might be able to tell us a little bit more about this, but because Werner wasn't guaranteed to start, that he would be used in rotation, and
at Liverpool,
I suppose with the Africa Cup of Nations and things like that, he would get a lot of games because both Mane and Salah are going to have to be going, and he didn't want that. He wanted to be guaranteed first team football.
No,
with Ziyech.
It's believed that Liverpool actually put in a bid for Werner. That all of the discussion was coming from his end. Klopp was always an admirer of him, but FSG never entertained the idea of negotiations, and there was actually never an approach in the first place. I think Chelsea were the only team, despite all the noise coming from all around Europe, that actually went in and got it done early and had their stuff together. And I think they've got a fantastic deal out of it.
Then they have got a free run at all five of their major signings. The three that have been announced already, and I think two to be announced. Yeah, my next point was they've been given a free run at Ziyech. No one else came in for him. It was just linked with Chelsea. They got that deal done in January, but it was just signed in the summer. And then Ben Chilwell, Leicester City in England, left back, £45 million. No one else was in for him. He's very good. I'm not sure if he's worth £45 million, but this is a crazy market. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that Thiago Silva has been announced. It's not been official. He's done his medical and everything, but it's not been made official yet. But he's going to be a free signing from PSG. And then Kai Havertz, the very exciting German attacking midfielder from Bayer Leverkusen, is on the cusp of a £90 million transfer. So that is right up there with the Premier League's top ever transfers into the Premier League. It's a massive deal, and again, no one else was in for Havertz. These are obviously great players, but it is strange that they didn't have to have a. Maybe it's because of the year that's in it.
It's commendable in a way. We spoke about Barcelona's poor planning of signings and into the future. Chelsea have obviously been sitting on this money for 2 years, or 2 years since Eden Hazard. Sorry, a season since Eden Hazard moved on, unable to spend it in the last couple of windows. And they've been organised. They've had a plan. They've known exactly who their targets are, where they need to strengthen, and they've gone in ahead of everybody else. The COVID lockdown seemed to affect so many clubs in so many ways because they were unsure of money, whether it was going. City, I know, have got a couple of deals done, but what Chelsea have done has just been incredibly impressive. they've known from the start of probably even January who they were going to come and get, and the second the window opened, they've gone and got it. They even tied down lots of these players before last season finished. Timo Werner came early, didn't mind missing out on the end of the Champions League, and things like this. So I suppose they've really laid down a marker of where they plan to be next season, and it's not going to be sitting third or fourth in the league.
No, it's not. You do not spend that kind of money. And I know you can almost say it was free money. It was like the Coutinho money for Liverpool, because it was a huge transfer for Hazard to Real Madrid. But there's serious pressure for Frank Lampard now. I mean, he has to be challenging for the league title. He might not necessarily have to win it, but he has to be challenging for it, and late into the season as well, and doing well in the Champions League. You cannot. We know how ruthless Roman Abramovich is. It's not acceptable at Chelsea to be given a world class players, and potentially world class players who cost tons of money, and with just a top four finish.
One major outgoing in Chelsea, and that was the free transfer of Willian, of course, over to Arsenal. Arsenal have confirmed a few deals, a lot of loan to buy options confirmed, and players that they've been linked with for a while. Do you want to quickly summarise that for us?
Yeah, so just today, Arsenal announced the signing of Gabriel Magalhaes, who's I butchered his surname. I'll just call him Gabriel. He's a left-footed 22-year-old Brazilian centre-back from Lille in the French league, costs £27 million. And from what I've seen of him, he's tall. I think he's about 6'3". He's left-footed. He's excellent on the ball, as a lot of left-footed players are. And he seems to read the game very well, and he's quick. So it'll be a tough ask to come into that Arsenal back line and start immediately, and I think that there will be some rotation between. I think David Luiz for the first 6 months at least will be the key man in the defence, and then they'll blood in both him and Saliba. So it's an exciting signing, and I think that Willian is a decent signing as well.
Ceballos was confirmed as well today, wasn't he?
Ceballos, it's not gone through, but yeah, it's all but done from what the media are saying. So he comes back for another loan, and then Arsenal have confirmed Cedric Suarez from Southampton on a free transfer. He was here on loan, back up to Bellerin and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. There's another option who might leave, because Arsenal now have three right backs, and then Pablo Mari, who's injured, centre back from Flamengo. So that's Arsenal's business so far. Reasonably proactive as well. There's been some criticism from fans, but I mean, that's 5 or 6 deals that are done and dusted already, so it's pretty good, to be fair.
All right, thanks for that. Stefan, I don't know how closely you've been following Leeds since they've come up. I'm delighted to be talking about them on the show, by the way. But they've had a big deal come through from Spain. Rodrigo, who obviously scored a lot of goals for Valencia over the last few years, has agreed a £30 million move, and they picked up another couple of players as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about your expectations for Leeds for the season?
Well, just like yourself, I'm really excited to be talking about them back in the Premiership again. Look, it's going to be really interesting. I think the spirit, I mean, the kind of the team spirit and the club spirit that Marcelo Bielsa kind of built up, not just, on the pitch, but through the city. I mean, he's like, you see videos of him in the supermarket with people, crawling around after him. He's built a real spirit and then a real flair to the team as well. And I mean, Rodrigo's a terrific player. I think it's a big frustration here in Spain that, you get guys who, really good players, and he's been a very good player for Valencia. And the promoted clubs with the new big TV deal they get are able to kind of come in and take all these players away from good teams in the Spanish league. But, the combination of him and then Helder Costa as well, I believe they signed. They're two pretty solid additions. So obviously there's always the worry with with players from abroad moving in, especially when there's a pressure on Leeds to get results, to not be anchored down towards the bottom of the league. But, if they can incorporate him, and obviously he'll be able to cross that, that language barrier, obviously a lot easier with Bielsa and a few others there. I have no reason why I don't think they can do pretty well next year in terms of
I think
in terms of avoiding relegation, that is.
Yeah, just on Rodrigo, I think that he's the type of forward who Bielsa really, really likes because he works really hard. He comes deep. He runs in the channels. If you look at how Patrick Bamford plays, he does that kind of role as well. So to have another option, I would say a far superior option to Patrick Bamford, who looked out of his depth in the Premier League when he was there with Norwich, I believe, and Middlesbrough. Yeah. They needed to upgrade in that area. Not to say that Bamford might not do well, but they needed to have another option. You can't just rely on someone who's failed in the Premier League before. Yeah. So, like, he's going to work very hard up front for them, and he can play off the left-hand side as well. So he gives them a lot of options across that front line.
Yeah, and on your point with Bamford, I think that, Bamford was signed from Chelsea to lower clubs to be the number one striker to keep them in the Premiership, and there was a lot of pressure to put on him, and he's probably playing in pretty poor teams, but someone like Rodrigo, big money signing, can come in and take the weight off someone like Patrick Bamford, and actually might be very beneficial for him as well, then, to just free him up a bit and not have the kind of weight of the club essentially on him to score all the goals. So it could really work really well, really good dynamic for the team. Yeah,
brilliant. There's not been a whole lot going on at Liverpool. Joe and I touched on this the other day in the Community Shield video. Just Costas, the left back, coming in as cover, and the Dejan Lovren exit being confirmed. The Gini Wijnaldum contract situation is still up in the air, and you'd imagine if he goes to Barcelona where he's been linked, then that potentially opens the door for Thiago, but it's all really speculation at this stage. Going across to Manchester United, they finally managed to shift Alexis Sanchez from their books. Steph, how important do you think that's going to be for them?
It's an interesting one. I mean, given that he's been kind of away the last season, we've kind of forgotten a bit about him, and they've almost moved on from him already. Like with Greenwood coming in and this kind of fast, counter-attacking young team that they have. Obviously, it's going to free up some money for them to maybe bring some more guys in. There's the Van de Beek rumours from Ajax, which seems to be kind of rumbling on and on and on. Don't know if they can get that done, and then maybe one of Sancho and Grealish. It feels like the ship might have sailed on Sancho. It was big rumored, and then it's they've kind of Dortmund have come out saying he's staying now. They've had enough, so maybe they'll shift to Grealish. He'll be an extra 50% now that he got called into the England squad. But
I have to say, sorry, just for Dortmund, they said the exact same thing with Aubameyang when Arsenal were linked with him in January 2018, and they even started playing him again, and it's just to get the money they want. So if United cough up the £100 million, they'll get Jadon Sancho. I think Jadon Sancho would love to play for Manchester United.
We saw the same thing with Bruno Fernandes at Manchester United last year. This will he, and it actually continued on into January before they decided that actually they were going to pay the fee that they were trying to avoid paying the entire time as it was. And you wonder maybe if they have learned from it, if they do want this player to actually go and spend up money. But obviously, it's time to be excited as a Manchester United fan with all these big names being linked with the club. With the club obviously assuring themselves Champions League football this year. With the upturn in form last season,
and I think the youthful aspect of the squad at the moment, there's obviously a bit of a couple of players that probably De Gea they might look at moving on potentially, but in terms of you look at kind of through the midfield and the forwards, it's such a young kind of vibe to the team, and then to be linked with these other young stars, it kind of maybe not just for this season but going on into the future, I'd say United fans are feeling pretty optimistic again, unfortunately.
Definitely. No,
I think they could still do with another centre back, and they've been rumours coming out about David Upamecano. If United get Van de Beek and Upamecano and Jadon Sancho, that's some serious players. I still have the question marks over certainly their left back, Luke Shaw. I don't think that he's good enough. He's not at the same level of all the other players, and De Gea seems to be past his best. But with De Gea, it'll be a natural transition to Henderson.
The thing about De Gea is that he only signed a new contract last season.
And he's on very big money. I think he's on about 250, 300.
Yeah, it was a huge contract for 4 or 5 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah. And who's going to pay that? Who's going to pay money for him if
Barcelona
he continues in poor form? But if he continues in poor form, no big club, it's going to be like Iker Casillas at Real Madrid, going to a Porto. They're a big club in Portugal, but they're not a a giant, if you know what I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
It's not the move that I think De Gea, a couple of years ago it was Real Madrid. That was the big move. But again, that wouldn't sell because Courtois has been brilliant. I don't think they're going to look to upgrade at all.
We spent 20 minutes talking about it on Lionel Messi to Manchester City. They do have 2 deals confirmed already, Nathan Ake and Fernan Torres. I think the Nathan Ake signing could really prove to be a big one for them. I know, Joe, when we heard it at first, we couldn't believe that they had signed another left-footed centre-back to partner Emerick Laporte, because I don't know if there's anything more criminal in football than having 2 left-footed centre-halves playing side by side, but I suppose Laporte could play left-back if needed. What it will do, though, I think it'll allow Fernandinho to go back to his natural number 6 position, which I think Roger did struggle in this season. And I think we talked about it a little bit last year, that was a major factor in Manchester City not being as successful as they have been in other Premier League seasons.
I agree with you that it is strange to... Nowadays, clubs seem to be wanting a right-footed and a left-footed centre-back. A lot of them anyway. There's been a lot of left-footed centre-backs who have become more prominent in recent years. And it is strange for City to go and buy another left-footed centre-back, but they clearly want a ball-playing, Premier League-proven centre-back, and Ake does, to be fair to him, fit that mold. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts. And I mean, they're professional footballers, so as much as we like to shout on about it being awful to see 2 left-footed centre-backs playing side by side, I'm sure they'll be able to figure something out. And
Okay, and Steph, obviously the other major signing, Fernan Torres. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Again, another huge loss here in Spain. He was absolutely terrific last year. For Valencia, like one of their real star players and kind of one of the standout players in the league. So again, it was one of those where this kind of growing glum. I think out here with the pandemic, a lot of money's been lost. They're kind of having to sell off players, but one of the most exciting players in the league. Kind of plays as a winger. Was playing as a winger for Valencia, so. I don't know how much City really need more of these brilliant attacking players, but they've got another absolutely terrific one here. So very exciting to see, hopefully, him playing. Again, I struggle to see, just with all the players they have, it might be difficult for him to get into the team, but it's going to be exciting if he gets out there for them.
Well, I suppose there is a Leroy Sané-shaped hole there somewhere. If in case we'd forgotten, I certainly had forgotten that he played for Manchester City. He wasn't missed last season, really, was he?
No, not at all. And I think I don't know if you guys agree, with the emergence of Bernardo Silva as a real kind of star turn in the City team, as maybe let people move on a bit from missing Leroy Sané. But again, it just gives another attacking option. I think Pep loves to kind of be able to keep players under pressure and rotate. I know he's the most hated man in fantasy football circles because he'll pull out players in good form at all times to keep the team fresh. So, and it will be up there for someone to go in and take their chance. So, like Ferran Torres, I mean, there will be times where he'll be rotated in for maybe a run of games. And it will kind of be up to him to show what he can do and force his way kind of more permanently into that side. But I can imagine the competition training is fierce to get into that City team, particularly as an attacking player.
Who have they got now? It's Sterling, Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Ferran Torres.
Messi.
Those are their Messi, Phil Foden. Those are those are 5 wide attacking options they have now.
Yeah, and they're all terrific players. I mean, they'd all nearly start in most teams in the league.
Right. A team that have been linked with a handful of new signings from all over the league and have got a couple done already. Newcastle United putting down a bit of a marker. Jeff Hendrick, the only confirmed signing.
Are they?
I think they are, man. I think they are.
My question.
I think Jeff Hendrick is going to be...
No, they're going after free transfers. Jeff Hendrick, a free transfer from Burnley. And Ryan Fraser, a free transfer, they haven't even confirmed yet. Jeff Hendrick is a bang average Premier League player. A bang average Premier League player. Nothing more than that. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's just because he's Irish. He's nothing special. Tell me all the great things he's done for Ireland and for Burnley.
He hit the crossbar against Sweden in the Euros.
Oh, that's amazing. I remember that. That's incredible. Yeah, it's not exactly Ray Houghton scoring against Italy in 1990, or was it 94?
Good, I think.
No, but I mean, come on, a free sign, Jeff Hendrick for free. Think about Newcastle and who they are, like how big that football club is, how much they mean to so many, to millions of people. Sorry, hundreds of thousands of people in the city of Newcastle. That's the
you don't think Jeff Hendrick and Ryan Fraser are going to get them excited?
No. Did Matt Ritchie get them excited? Did Dwight Gale get them excited? Jesus, Rafe, come on.
I think they're recycling the model basically.
Do you know what? Maybe where you're coming from is we've got so used to Newcastle being treated so poorly by Ashley that signing a competent Premier League player like Jeff Hendrick, he is a competent Premier League player. He's an average Premier League player, but he's a competent Premier League player. And Ryan Fraser, who's an average Premier League winger, who's had like one season where he was productive with assists. Come on, that's not the standard. And Callum Wilson, who looked good in patches for Bournemouth, but he never sustained it. He can never stay fit. He's not scored, 15, 20 goals a season, 3 or 4 seasons in a row. This is not exciting times to be a Newcastle fan. This is, and I have the utmost respect for Newcastle. I want Newcastle to do well because they're a traditional Premier League club, Newcastle, which is a city with maybe not a huge lot of, they live for football in that city. That's the city revolves around that football club, and it's sad to see them being treated like this and to be only given free transfers, and for the all of these sales to come up every year and then they fall through, and it's sad. That's how it is.
One that jumps out off your list here, Joe, Aaron Ramsdale, Bournemouth to Sheffield United, £18 million. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It's the English tax, isn't it?
80%.
Must be, surely.
He did have a good season, though.
Yeah,
I got relegated. I think statistically he was one of the worst keepers at coming for crosses. I was reading today.
Okay.
In the league, so I don't think he had that great a season. I don't think that he's that good.
No, I think they've fallen a good bit short in their search for a Dean Henderson replacement. Unfortunately,
yeah, they should have tried harder to get Dean Henderson back on loan.
Yeah,
I suppose
there's no doubt he's a decent goalkeeper, Ramsdale, and he's had his good games, but for me, he looks a lot of the Pickford mould, I think.
I suppose them going out and spending £18 million does suggest that Manchester United will definitely be keeping hold of Dean Henderson, though, for this year.
Like I said, that's going to be a natural transition. I think De Gea will start as number one. Henderson will be given opportunity. If De Gea messes up, or if De Gea gets injured and Henderson comes in and does well, then that's that.
Because I think
that's how it's going to be.
Sheffield United is a perfect breeding ground for Henderson. So, given that they're not going to loan him back to Sheffield United, it would appear that they plan to use him this year.
Okay, Stefan, I'm going to put you under a little bit of pressure here. I'm going to put myself under pressure to pronounce his surname first. Mohamed Salisu, transferred from Real Sociedad to Southampton. Can you tell us anything about him?
I can. He's a 6'3" Senegalese centre back who went through the ranks in Valladolid. Came up through their second side, the B team, and had I can't remember exactly. I think it might have been one really good year, and it might have been last year. Commanding centre back, can play with the ball at his feet. I suppose as he's from Senegal and he's 6'3", you'd say in the Koulibaly mold, but not. Time will tell if he's in that class. He's young. He's 22, so it's going to be a big test for him. But obviously, at 6'3", he's going to be able to deal with the physical aspect of the Premier League.
They've gone out and signed Kyle Walker-Peters from Spurs as well. Excuse me. Do you think that Ralph Hasenhüttl has identified a weak link in the Southampton defence that he's trying to fix, or has he just seen a couple of good deals going here?
Is Kyle Walker-Peters a good deal for £12 million?
I suppose we're back to the English tax.
Take your Arsenal hat off there, Joe.
Is he? What's he done? I'm going to praise Spurs when we talk about Spurs because they've done some good business and they have some good players. I don't think Kyle Walker-Peters is one of their good players. was one of their good players. So I think they've done well to move him on for £12 million.
Yeah, I would say he would have identified some sort of weakness. Obviously, they've lost Cedric, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Suarez, but he was gone
So
already.
they obviously had to fill that void. Salisa coming from Spain is obviously a young player, but probably a bit of a project. I don't think they can probably expect him to step in. From what I remember, he only kind of stepped into the first team last year, so he's quite short in experience. So there's probably a bit of a project player there that they saw some talent in. And then Walker Peters, someone who's played a good bit in the Premier League to kind of fill a void, I guess.
Someone that Spurs have gone out and got, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. Is that how you pronounce his surname?
Yeah.
Højbjerg.
Højbjerg. For only 15 million. He seems like a bit more of a discount when you consider the money that Southampton are taking in. To let him go for only 15 seems a bit crazy.
Yeah, he's a good player. Very, very good player. Combative midfielder. Can pass, can tackle, can do pretty much anything. Doesn't really score that. I think last year he did score a few, but that was the only time that he started chipping in with goals. But he's a good signing for Spurs for 15 million, and to get Matt Doherty from Wolves for less than that, if the fee is to be believed, is extreme. That's Daniel Levy at his best, isn't it? Negotiating those.
I suppose when you're spending
it's hard to wonder how he does it.
On Matt Doherty, then you're selling Walker Peters for. You're doing great business in the right back department anyway.
Yeah, and I think it has to be looked like. I mean, look at that for an upgrade for basically for free. And if you look at, I think what this season is going to be, it's going to be a bit of a slog. It's going to be a bit compact. So to add 2 quality players into the squad like that is really, really good business from Tottenham.
Højbjerg, I think, was top of the list on defensive recoveries last year, on interceptions and possession turnovers on defense. So he sounds perfect for a Jose Mourinho midfield anyway.
Yeah, I think that he'll like him a lot more than he likes Ndombele. Has there been rumours of Ndombele going? Like for me, whoever gets in there ahead of Winks, ahead of Ndombele, they've sold Wanyama.
There was rumours of Winks on the way out as well. United possibly before the Van der Beek deal happened.
They should pursue Van der Beek ahead of Harry Winks. No, but Tottenham, Højbjerg's a good signing. That's a good signing. He'll start for them and he'll do well.
I don't think Mourinho
Spurs have also picked up Joe Hart on a free and let Jan Vertonghen go on a free. Vertonghen is one that's going to need to be replaced. They still need to sign a centre half, don't they?
Yeah, who have they got now? They've got Alderweireld and Sanchez.
Davies.
And Ben, he's a left back who can play centre back. Juan Foyth.
Eric Dyer's playing there a lot as well.
Yeah, they're light there. Definitely, they're light there.
Sanchez?
Yeah, no, it's Sanchez and Alderweireld. They're 2 first choice. And then Juan Foyth, who played a lot at right back, young Argentinian defender, but he's naturally a centre back. Yeah,
knowing Jose Mourinho, that's the area he's going to want to target. Have you been watching the Spurs documentary, lads? Anyone seen any of it?
I haven't got to it now.
I haven't started it, but I look forward to it. I've seen clips and all the clips look great. Jose does absolute best.
Well, it is the Jose Mourinho documentary. I think the first 15 minutes of the first episode cover Poch, and after that it's Jose Mourinho on camera for 95% of the time.
That's worth the money.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. I think that actually it may have had a part in why he came into the club, the Amazon documentary being what it was and how lucrative it could be for them, knowing Levy in that club.
Never underestimate the commercial nature of football.
God, no. Joe, I'm going to quickly run through some of your major transfer rumours here. Van der Beek to Manchester United, we spoke about that. Sancho and Grealish, we spoke about. Thomas Partey to Arsenal. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so he seems to be Arsenal's major transfer wish. They're going to need to raise some funds after having brought in Gabriel, but there are several Arsenal players who are linked with exits to release some funds, like some Lucas Torreira and Matteo Guendouzi in midfield. I think Torreira could probably go for 20-25 million pounds, and Guendouzi maybe a little bit more. So between if Arsenal can sell both of them, they can bring in Partey. Partey is an extremely competent centre midfielder who can pretty much do everything. He seems to excel most at the base of the midfield, but he's also very technically good. very good on the ball, so he could play in any combination of midfield, you'd think. Arsenal bringing him in would be a major statement of intent.
Yeah,
and talking about letting Guendouzi go.
Just sorry to add on Partey as well. There are whispers in the Spanish press today that he would be willing to join Arsenal, and his buyout clause is €50 million, so probably not out of the reach.
No, especially if they can shift someone like Guendouzi off the bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's talk of Guendouzi to Valencia. Guendouzi's fallen out with Arteta, and he's going to be sold. So I'd say, I mean, Guendouzi's a very promising player, and he's going to be playing Champions League football later in his career. So there will be money from selling him.
Obviously, there's been lots of talk about Thiago and Wijnaldum at Liverpool. One guy that we didn't talk about there is Ismaila Sarr is being linked for £40 million. He was obviously instrumental in their first league defeat of the season last year. Stefan, what do you think about him being discussed with a £40 million price tag?
It's an interesting one. Probably one of those players that I think 40 million is a gamble. I just think just showed a lot of flashes of brilliance and excellence, and it's always that risk you take is do you have a guy who's a consistent scoring lots of goals year in year out, or are you buying someone based on flashes and how good you think they might be, and then I guess it's a case of how much you trust kind of the system that you have that they'll fit into it, and then how much you trust the coaching to be able to adapt them into it.
I think I can't see that one happening. Two main reasons. The first being I'm not so sure if I believe the rumours to be true. It doesn't fit the mold of a Liverpool signing. They only seem to be spending big money when the player is proven. You could think of Fabinho, Van Dijk, Alisson, all these players
for a similar price.
Mo Salah was proven in Serie A in 1.5 seasons.
Yeah, okay.
I think
he did very well.
Salah was definitely at a higher level.
He was. And my second point is that he's Senegalese, and that's another African wide forward, and they have, just in terms of when the African Cup of Nations takes place, then that would be all of their wide forwards except for Origi at the Africa Cup of Nations. So for me, those are two reasons to suggest that I think Liverpool are too clever to pursue a signing like that. I don't think that he's quite what they need. Okay,
fair enough. Thanks. We'll keep scrolling, and one that draws the eye here: Mesut Ozil. Joe, is he finally going to leave?
He's really digging his heels in here, and he keeps on. Even coming today, he put a tweet out saying 7 years. It's 7 years to the day since he signed for Arsenal. So he put a tweet out saying that he wouldn't change it for the world. He'd never change that. Best decision of his life. So I think he's actually going to see out his contract. Everything indicates that that's the case. He's not been picked for any squad since lockdown. He hasn't been involved in any official Arsenal training. Like, what more can Arteta do or the club do to try to move him out? And he's just not going to go. But those are the rumours today that he's been offered a lifeline from the Middle East.
Rumours at least of Wilfried Zaha being linked with Borussia Dortmund. Is that as a potential replacement for Jadon Sancho if he leaves?
Would have to be, I assume. I don't think they wouldn't get Zaha without shipping Sancho.
And I suppose the final big rumours associated with Premier League clubs would be James Rodriguez and Alan both being linked with Everton, the Ancelotti pull there. If they can pull off those two signings, I mean, it would definitely at least raise their public profile, if not their chances of finishing up the Premier League table. Joe, how excited do you think Everton fans would be hearing their club being linked with players of that calibre?
Yeah, I put a poll out on our Twitter account the other day asking about James in particular, and people seem to be happy with it. I'm really not so sure about that. He was linked with Arsenal in the January transfer window, and I really I was a no-go for me. I don't think that. I think that he's a bit of a luxury player, and I don't think that he's been the player of the 2014 World Cup since 2015. He's 29. I don't know. Maybe he'll come in and do great, but I think it's a big risk, and it'll be an expensive risk as well. They're talking about £30 million, 25, £30 million, and then he'll be on 200 grand a week or so. Is that what Everton need? Everton seems to have had a lot of players. I think Everton need young, hungry players who want to fight for the badge, who want to prove themselves. Richarlisons. They need more Richarlisons than James Rodriguez.
And that concludes the end of part 2. And that's this week's edition of the Premier Football Podcast. Stefan, I know that you're in a rush to get out a hot date on the town this evening in Granada, is it?
Something like that, yeah. Without the date.
And Joe, thanks for joining us as well.
Yeah, pleasure, Rafe.
Will we get you back on again?
Man, for sure. Yeah, without doubt, obviously.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. As always, we've been the Premier Football Podcast. If we can ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave any comments or any feedback, we greatly appreciate it. The links will be out for the audio clips, Spotify. If we get likes and subscriptions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, we're absolutely everywhere, and we appreciate any support on any platform.